Well, I never thought my night shifts would change the way I see reality. Working alone, it was just me, the hum of machines, the faint whisper of air filters, and the occasional flicker of the lights, until last night. I was stationed at an isolated laboratory, buried deep in the forest. My job? Monitor the cameras, check the systems, and make sure nothing went wrong while the researchers slept in the main building. Simple. Routine. Safe. Or so I thought. The woods around the lab were disturbingly silent. No crickets. No wind. Not even the distant howl of an animal. Just silence, so heavy it pressed against my chest. Even my footsteps sounded too loud, echoing against unseen walls. I took a sip of coffee, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. It started quietly. On one of the monitors, something moved in the storage wing. A shadow, thin, gliding. I shrugged it off, probably a raccoon, maybe a stray cat. Then the lights in that wing began to flicker, pulsing like a heartbeat. At first, just faintly. I grabbed my flashlight and walked down the empty hall. The smell of disinfectant was sharp, almost suffocating, making my stomach twist. The walls felt like they were closing in, and every reflective surface seemed to catch glimpses of something that wasn't me. Parts of the lab's corridors had rusted metal walls and flooring, amplifying every sound. That's when I heard it, soft, deliberate footsteps behind me. I froze. My lungs locked up. Nothing. Only the buzzing of the fluorescent lights. Then a whisper. Almost too soft to catch. My name. Just once. You shouldn't be here. The hair on my neck rose. I turned. The hall was empty. Just the beam of my flashlight cutting the dark. My heart pounded. Stress, I told myself. Imagination. But stress doesn't leave faint marks on cold metal walls. Stress doesn't make the air feel heavier, crushing your chest. I checked the cameras again. The figure, tall, impossibly thin, almost translucent, was standing in one of the corridors. Its gaze fixed on me, as if it could see me through the lens itself. It didn't move like a human. And yet, it watched. I thought the monitor was glitching. Maybe the feed was corrupted. So I went to see for myself. The lights failed in patches, leaving stretches of pure darkness. My flashlight sputtered and slipped from my hands. I fumbled for my phone, its screen casting a pale glow down the hallway. I found the flashlight again, though its beam flickered like it was struggling to survive. I pushed into one of the lab's older rooms, more like a neglected storage area than anything else. My heart hammered, chest tight. Each step echoed too loud. Objects shifted as if moved by unseen hands, chairs sliding, drawers slamming open and shut, papers fluttering like wings. The air thickened, dense, crushing. I shut my eyes for 2 seconds. When I opened them, everything was still. I entered a room lined with glass panels. The reflections stared back, but they weren't mine. Faces, distorted, fleeting, watched me from the other side of the glass. My fear threatened to paralyze me, but I forced myself to ignore them. For now. Then came the smell. Rot. Metal. My stomach twisted. The air grew colder. Colder than outside. I could see my breath in the dark. I tried calling the researchers, but my phone read no signal. Not even emergency numbers worked. The place wouldn't let me leave. I turned a corner and froze. A shadow moved along the wall. It didn't walk, it stretched, projected out of nowhere. My flashlight flickered and revealed, the shadow remained, even under the light. I felt it, something standing right behind me. Every nerve in my body screamed to run, but my legs locked. I stumbled back into the old lab, searching desperately for a way to communicate, maybe a radio. Nothing. Then the room stirred again. Drawers rattled. The single chair in the center began to turn, slowly, as though circling something invisible. I whispered to myself, "It's not real. It's not real," but I knew I was lying. I crawled under a desk, gasping for breath. My eyes darted to the corners of the room. Something shifted, just beyond the reach of the light. I held my breath. A whisper, "You can't hide." I stood, backing into a corner, trembling. The beam of my flashlight caught the figure again. A voice, timeless, hollow, slid into my ears. It wasn't my imagination. It didn't fade. Then, silence. The whispering cut off. And it began, a storm of overlapping voices, impossible to separate. Not cries for help, laughter, mockery, echoes from every direction. I spun, and it was there again. The figure. Its eyes tearing something out of me, feeding on thoughts, memories, sanity. The walls bent, warped, closing in. My legs refused to move. Then suddenly, they did. I bolted for the emergency exit. Doors I swore had been locked swung open easily. The hallway looked normal. Calm. Safe. But when I glanced back, the lab burned with light against the night. And I saw them. Dozens of figures shifting behind me, reaching, chasing. I didn't dare stop. My footsteps pounded the ground as I tore through the dark. I never looked back again. The whispers followed me, fading only as I got farther from that place. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. My hands shook as I fumbled with the keys. I drove straight to town, never once daring to glance into the rearview mirror. The police found nothing. No signs of a break-in. No footage on the security system. Just an empty lab. And yet, when I close my eyes, I still see them. Watching. Waiting. Always there. Some nights, there are things not meant to be seen.